Welcome to my wonderful mother. It's amazing to be here in person. It really, really is. The last time I gave a share for Seed, I was sitting in my back room in front of a screen because it was, and about 20 minutes into the share, I don't know why, I don't know what happened to my laptop, but the screen went dark. So I was giving this share for about half an hour, actually not knowing if anyone would hear me. So it's definitely a treat to be here in person, but welcome to anyone who is joining us on Zoom and anyone who will listen to this share at any future point, because the recording will be sent out. So anyone who's heard me speak before will know that I don't lecture at anyone. If I give a share, I want to be sharing. I want to be sharing something that impacts my life on a personal level and in my professional work as well, working with people as therapists. So this is a sharing. This is not a lecture. I'm not talking at you. So when City asked me to speak at the beginning, I wasn't sure because I do usually have clients on a Thursday morning, but it was very important to me to be here, so we made it work. And I said to my husband, I'd love to give a share on the empowerment triangle. And I said, I wonder if I can pull it off. And then I looked at the parasha, the Torah portion of the week that Sifi asked me to speak, obviously this week. And I thought, wow, it is all in there. And that's how the Torah works. The word Torah is from the word Torah, to teach. The Torah is not a historical accounting of what happened way back when. Excuse me. The Torah is a teaching. The Torah gives us all the factors we need to live an emotionally healthy life. So when I looked, and obviously I'm going to share with you exactly what I found, but when I looked in the parasha, it just hit me again, like how everything is in there. And if we look, we will find it. So, okay, so what is the empowerment triangle? It's based, what's more famous is what's called the Karpman Drama Triangle. Has anyone ever heard of it? Okay, so the Karpman Drama Triangle, there's handouts here. It just might be easier if you can actually see. It's a very simple diagram. The Karpman Drama Triangle, as you can see written here, the drama triangle. Can I hold it up? Okay, so the drama triangle explains dynamics in any relationship. Okay, so obviously that means in interpersonal relationships, it means in our relationships with ourselves, and also in our relationship with Hashem, which is a very real relationship. Okay, so the Karpman Drama Triangle explains that whenever there is an unhealthy, disempowering dynamic going on, there are three roles that have to be in place for this to perpetuate, for this to continue. The three roles are, as we can see, victim. Victim is when we feel like things are coming at us, like we're pinned against the wall with things coming at us and we're helpless. There's nothing, we don't have any control. There's nothing we can do. That's the victim. Then we need a persecutor. The persecutor could be a person who's driving us crazy. The persecutor could be a circumstance, some plan that changes, or something that happens externally that's difficult. And the rescuer is something that we can do for ourselves by trying to keep ourselves in the comfort zone and rescue ourselves, but it can sometimes be a person. So it could be that we're waiting for someone to rescue us. We're the victim feeling self-pity, and we're waiting for someone to come in and rescue, or we could be the rescuer for someone else. We could see someone else as a victim. Oh, poor them having to go through such and such. I need to rescue them. I need to control, I need to save them. Okay, so this that I'm describing now is the unhealthy dynamic. Okay, which if we're honest, I definitely can own, we all get into, okay? And what's helpful to know is that when we can be aware of it, when we can be aware that we've gone into any one of these roles, obviously that's a really great space, that's a really great realization that then we can work out how we can obviously switch over to the healthy side. So the drama triangle is very famous. And I learned it a long time ago and I thought, okay, great. But like, imagine putting on the GPS and it's saying, don't go that way because there's loads of congestion, and don't go that way because you know, because there's been an accident. Okay, fine, but where should I go? Can you give me some direction where I am going to get to where I want to get to? So I was very excited when I discovered the empowerment triangle. The empowerment triangle is more recent, devised by David Emerald, and he gives David Emerald is called, and he gave a parallel, a healthy parallel to each of these unhealthy elements. Okay, so parallel to the victim who feels helpless, out of control, in a lot of fear, is the creator. Opposite the persecutor, feeling that things are chasing us, things are out to get us, things are coming at us, is the challenger. Things can be very challenging sometimes. But instead of seeing it as a persecution, if we're able to see it as a challenge, that automatically is shifting our frame of mind into a more empowering one. And opposite the rescuer is the coach. That means either we're in a position, instead of rescuing, to coach and support. And in terms of receiving, we want to receive, we want to share with someone who's a coach, and we're going to go into each of these in more detail, but we want to share and receive from someone who's a coach, someone who believes in us, someone who accepts us as who we are, rather than someone who's trying to jump in and sort and control and fix. Okay? So we're going to use this as the basis for our share. Now, what I found amazing was when I discovered this, the word creator, I found so amazing because, like we were saying before, any truth we're going to find in the Torah, we're going to find in Torah Outlook. And we all know that we have a spark, a divine spark, it's Sedem Elokim, which is the real us, which is a spark of Hashem that's inside us. Now, when Hashem created the world, he created it from nothing into something. Subsequently, we can only create what they call yesh miyesh, something from something. So if I want to take this table and chop it up and, you know, make a frame or something from it, I can do that. I've got the wood, I can reconstruct it, but I can't create wood, right? So we can take what Hashem created and we can twist it around, and that is true for everything except our choices. Our choices, Hashem almost carves out a space where we create something from nothing. Yesh me'ayin. In that way, we emulate Hashem. Because in that moment of choice, the world goes quiet. And there is nothing there except what we're going to fill with our choice. So I found that fascinating, that really the opposite of victim is creator. The opposite of victim is not being helpless and held pinned against the wall by the inevitable challenges that we do go through in life. The opposite of victim is creator. It's being able to access that inner spark, that tremendous power that we have inside us to make choices and to create with those choices. Now, looking at Rivka Imenu, who Rebecca, the matriarch, who is in this week's parasha, we see it so clearly because we're introduced to her last week in Parashas Vayisara, and Hashem and the Torah tells us her lineage, that she came from the Harlem of those days, right? She came from a very dysfunctional, difficult, dishonest, conniving type of background. Her brother, her father, the whole town that she was in. And then this week, when we continue the story, we're told again her lineage. So the Maharan asks, why? Why are we told again? We already know all this information from last time. And he says it's to praise her, to show, to really demonstrate the point that she could so have been a victim of her past. And bringing it out again shows that she, even though, despite what she came from, she was still so immensely great. So it highlights for us how immensely great Rivka was, the opposite of a victim. not being a victim of her past and what she'd been through, being able to create and become, obviously, you know, such a tremendously great person. And the Medrash calls her K'Shoshana bein ha'choifim, like a rose among the thorns being her past, her background. The Shoshana, the rose, is obviously beautiful, that grows up amongst the thorns. And if I'm honest, in my work that I do, in the counseling, it's such a privilege to be in that position of being able to support people from their thorns, from whatever it is that they've been through, that they've come from. Sometimes I see that people want to block it, right? It's like, no, that's there. I just want to move forward. And good for them, they want to move forward. That's their creator. That's the element that's coming through. It's an amazingly powerful thing. What I find even more powerful is being able to move with what we've been through. And we see it when I saw this medrash about the K'Shoshana bein ha'choifim, that Rivka is compared to a rose. And I thought, you know what, let's Google rose prickles, let's see what comes up, right? If any interesting fact comes up. And I did find something. It says that the rose thorns curve downwards. So as the rose grows, the thorns hitch themselves onto nearby plants, and that actually enables them to grow. So that's what we mean when we say being creative. It means that we've all been through things. I don't think there's anyone sitting here or listening to this who hasn't been through things. And those things are not things to be ashamed of. Those things that are thorns can actually help us to grow. And we see it very clearly demonstrated with Rivka herself, because like I said before, she came from a very dishonest background. And obviously she went forward in a great way. When it came to switching the brachas, when it came to giving the blessings, that she had to deceive Yitzchak, she had to deceive her husband and twist it around and dress Yaakov up to be Esau, so that when Yitzchak, who was blind, would feel his way, he would feel as if it was Esau's skin, and give the brachas which he thought he was giving to Yaakov to Esau, because Rivka knew that was right, and she changed the whole destiny of the Jewish people with that incredibly insightful, wise, creative way of switching the brachas around. What's amazing is that she used her background, she used her exposure to deceit in a way of growth. So we can see, because Shoshana bein ha'choifim, she wasn't just a rose, she was. But even the thorns, even the things that were painful, even the things that were difficult in her past, not only was she not a victim of it, but she actually used it to grow, to help propel things forward. So I found that really, I love the way that tied together. Just a cute little story. My Ellie was having a difficult time in school. So I said to him, okay, I said to myself, let's not see this as a victim, right? Let's see it as a creator in his little 5-year-old's way. He was 5 at the time. So I said, okay, come on, Al, what ideas do you have? You know, what do you think could help you? And he looked at me and he goes, Mummy, I think tomorrow I should stay off school and we'll think about it. And I thought, very creative, like, great, right? But we all have a creative way, and just in terms of parenting, you know, being able to see our children as, you know, obviously age appropriately, right? I wouldn't make you decide which high school is going to go to the age of 5, but just to see that creative and trust that creative streak that is in each and every one of our children, our friends, anyone we're going to come into contact with. If we're able to talk to that and see it, sometimes we can see it in them in a time when they can't see it for themselves. And as we're going to learn, none of us are above losing sight of that in ourselves and needing someone else, a coach, to redirect ourselves back to our own inner strength and creativity to deal with challenges. Honestly, the only reason I would use this model and share it, the empowerment triangle, is because there is a challenger in the mix. because I feel like, excuse me, it's so important for us to validate challenge and not to just, what's the word, like, be a paratrooper through and stoic and what they call white knuckling, right? Like just martyr through. I think it's really important for us to validate challenge, but I think the way that we see it is going to be the clincher, whether we're in the drama triangle where we see things chasing at us, overpowering us, or whether we're in the empowerment triangle where we see this very same challenge in a person or a circumstance in a way that that we validate the challenge, but it doesn't push us down as a person. So sometimes when we're in victim mode, we seem tiny and the challenge seems huge. The persecution seems huge, right? In the empowerment triangle, the challenge could be huge, but our power is in line with that. It's equal to that. So the drama triangle is very much one of fear and loss of trust in ourselves or the people we're trying to rescue. Whereas the empowerment triangle validates the challenge. I feel it's very important that I say this, as you can hear. I really want to stress this. This is not about overlooking and, oh, why am I making a big thing about things? And other people have it harder than me. It's not really such a big, no, there are things that we deal with that are very, very challenging. And even if on paper it doesn't seem to be, if we're struggling with it, that's enough for us to name it as a challenger. But that's not going to mean that that has to be disempowering and we have to be a victim. If we can see it as a challenge rather than a persecution. For example, I was planning to prepare this year on Motzei Shabbos, and my daughter Esty went off to a social, it's very nice what they do in school, a social on rollerblades, and 10 minutes later I get the call. She's 4.5. Her elbow looks funny, and we had a lovely evening in the Panda unit in her hospital. So she's okay, and it was the same thing playing out. It's like, oh, I really wanted to prepare my share, like, plans changing. Yeah, it was challenging, and I know this is small on the scale of challenge, right? But it's the same dynamic. It's like, yes, this is challenging, but you know what? It can become part of my share, right? You can be creative. We can make things work if we're in that more empowered frame of mind. Okay, so sometimes we have to be the challenger, okay? Or sometimes people have to challenge us, and we have a choice. For example, again, in parenting or in any relationship, sometimes we have to put a boundary in place and we have to challenge people. But the difference between being a persecutor and a challenger is whether we do it respectfully and in whether we let the other person draw us into the drama triangle. So how could that look? That could be a parent of a teenager putting a curfew in place. You must be in by 12. By 12, you must be home. Oh, all the other parents, why are you so tight, right? That is trying to make you into they're trying, not because they're malicious, just because they have to do the teenage thing, right? But they're trying to make the parent into the persecutor, right? Whereas if the parent can see, no, I am challenging them. It's not easy. They don't want to be home by 12, right? But if they can stay in that challenger mode and see and understand that they're challenging them, but they're not a victim, then they're not going to get into the whole escalation that can, as we know, very, very easily happen, right? The only way it can become an escalation if we agree, all right, let's hang out in the drama triangle, then yes, it's going to become an escalation, right? We're going to become the persecutor, they're going to become the victim, and then we're going to feel really bad and try and rescue them. So, and that just perpetuates. But if we stay in the empowerment triangle, knowing that, yes, sometimes we will have to say things that the other person doesn't want to hear, but if we can see that and do that with confidence and respect and dignity, then it doesn't have to open up the drama triangle. It doesn't have to be. We can choose. We can be creative about staying in the empowerment triangle. And we see this again with Rivka. Rivka was in such awe of Yitzhak, even though she had to challenge him. And he found out he cried when he found out that the brachas had change. So it wasn't that she felt too bad, oh, I just can't, he's going to be so upset. She knew she had to. It was so important. But she did it in such a subtle, respectful way. She didn't overtly challenge him. That wasn't right in this particular instance. She did it in a very respectful way. So she found the way of challenging that could uphold Yitzchak's respect and dignity. Okay, so going on to the rescuer. Us Jewish women are wonderful at this, right? This whole saving and rushing in, and it comes from such an incredible place. It comes from a place of caring. It's just that when we rush in from a rescuing place, from a need to fix and sort, and if we're honest, control, right? Then we innocently perpetuate the victim of the person we are, who we're bestowing our rescuing on, right? Whereas if we're able to just go back, take that step back into the coach role in any relationship it can be in, yeah, from parenting to marriage, to friendship, to professional roles, there's always going to be this role of coach, right? Where we are able to see the other person as an equal in the way that they have their power and I have mine. We're able to believe in them and we're able to accept them for who they are. That's going to help us to stay in coach mode, okay? There's a letting go. It's not that their power is going to come through me. So if I don't give them, or if I don't sort it, they're not going to be okay. It's no, 1 second. Let's take a step back. What's my role here? Find it and do it to the best of my ability. Show that I care, give, but give powerfully from a place of empowerment, from a place of that's the clincher, from a place, giving powerfully from a place of empowerment. I can give an example that I was talking to a woman the other day, and she was saying that whenever she's having a hard time, even the tone of her voice changes to her husband. So she'll whine in a very sophisticated way, right? It's like, oh, and this and that, and I'm fine. Okay, we can accept that, right? But when we had it out, and I said to her, do you know what a gift it is to your husband if you can actually ask him for what you need? Yeah, asking him for what you need makes him into the coach, makes us into the creator. And whatever it is that's challenging, you know, the 15 kids or the major Shara brachas that's coming, whatever it is, yeah, or bigger things as well. Yeah, it's the challenger, but that doesn't mean that she has to go into victim and her husband has to go into rescuer. So being able to ask for what we need in a dignified, competent way is such a huge part of being empowered. It's the way we ask, the tone we ask. If we're coming in as victim, poor me, and we're kind of flopping on the person, pretty likely that they're going to respond with rescuer. And if people flop on us, our natural way would also be. But learning this gives us insight into 1 second. Let's just take that step back into empowerment and think for myself, what is my role here? So the way I say it, I don't know if I've mentioned it in a suture before, is the 3 C's. I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, I can't control it. Though that's all rescuer mode. It's all my fault. You know, if a child's having a hard time, it's all my fault, I need to rescue, right? That's the rescuer. And I made up my own 3 C's of empowerment, which is I can care, I can get clear on my role, and I can have compassion. All of that is very, very much in line with being in the coach role. We care what people are going through. We have compassion, but we don't feel the need to control it. Because when we do, we're subtly giving a message, you can't do this. I need to do it for you. And the person that we care about so much, we're actually doing them a disservice. Whereas when we go into the coach role, we're very much doing them a service. So again, going back to the parasha, when Rivka was struggling in her pregnancy, she went to Shem. She reached out for a coach. And it's very important to know, she went to him for advice. And it's very, very important to know that no one is above needing other people. But the way that we reach out is going to be a very, very, like we're saying, it's going to be a very big indicator of what we're going to attract back. When I was, I guess I'd been married maybe 3-4 years. I had 2 little boys and I was so frustrated at home. Loved them to bits, but I was really, really frustrated. And my husband has an amazing Rav called Rav Spivak, and he should be well, and his wife should have a Bush Shalema. And we went to Gateshead to talk it through. Like, I was really struggling. And he said the most amazing thing to me. He said, "What's your name?" So he said, look at your name, Deborah, yeah? Deborah, the prophetess, was leading the Jewish people into battle, right? All those years ago, yeah? He said, "I'm not surprised we're a little bit frustrated at him." And he said, what do you think about going into counseling? And I said, counseling? Really? Me, counseling, right? He was the one. He was the coach. So he took a challenge, and I was really, really struggling, yeah? He took a challenge and helped me to find a creative way of meeting that challenge, which obviously, Baruch Hashem, I've been able to do. So that's just my own personal example. There are many, many examples, but we know that the Mishnah says, "Aseh lecha rav," make a Rav for yourself. And sometimes a Rav is literally a Rav, and I really encourage you to find someone who you feel understands you and you feel comfortable to really talk to, because it's indispensable in our lives. But sometimes a Rav can represent just someone who we hold in esteem. And in that particular situation, we just want to receive their take on things, their guidance, their wisdom, and that in that moment can become our quote unquote Rav. And acquire for yourself a friend. I'm not going to get commission, but go to Noshas, go out and just not who's got the worst life, yeah, not that type of conversation, but just share and be and care and just friendship. It's so powerful, incredibly powerful in having that element of coach in our lives, that it doesn't need to be dramatic for us to have that connection. We don't need to wait till there's some major drama, major crisis. Like, just enjoy being with people, talking to them, picking their brains, getting their insights, their thoughts on things. It really helps to balance out, the challenge that we have and finding that creativity within us. I find it amazing. I was talking to a girl a couple of weeks ago, and amazing girl, like really struggling, but you could see such strength in her and the specialness. And she was saying, like, she was honest with me, and she said, I don't feel like Hashem cares about me. And she was like so embarrassed to say it, like, you can't say that. And I said, it's amazing to me. You know what? I feel so inspired. And I was being very genuine when I said it. Like, I feel so inspired by what you're saying to me now, because our relationship with Hashem is so real. Anyone can feel that in a human relationship. Anyone can feel that lack of care sometimes, and we struggle with it. And she was struggling in her relationship with Hashem. How real is that relationship, that we can feel a very real feeling of any regular relationship? So when we're talking about a coach, I feel for myself, it's important to remember that Hashem is our coach. Hashem believes in us. Hashem is always caring and always with us. So, true, sometimes we feel it more than others, 100%. But sometimes tuning in to that, like on the way here, actually, I walked around and I was just thinking, like, what would Hashem say to me now? Like, if I knew he was speaking, he is. Like, what would he say? It's like, you've got this, Debs, like this shit, right? Like, it's very real. He's our coach. Like, he's really cheering us on. And I remember hearing something from Shlomo Brevda, and he says, I've mentioned this here before, but it bears repetition, that when we say Moda Ani in the morning, we thank Hashem for giving us life. And then the last 2 words are Rabba Imanasecha, great is your trust. your belief. And we're talking to Hashem, like we have belief in him. What's Rabba Emanasecha, your trust? And the answer is his trust in us. He believes in us. He's created us. He knows what we're made of. He believes in the tremendous power that we have inside ourselves to be able to meet challenges in a creative way. So I feel like that's very important to remember. And also our own inner coach. There's a great book called Playing Big by Torah. And just what I got out of this book is she makes such a clear definition between our own inner coach and our inner critic. Sorry if some of you don't relate to this, right? But we all have an inner coach and we all have an inner critic. We all have two inner voices, right? And that's basically another way of demonstrating the drama triangle. We, in any situation, it's not the situation that's going to decide which of those paths we're going to choose. It's us that's going to decide. Yes, there's always going to be a disempowering voice, and we know when it's disempowering because we feel it. We feel that slumping of our shoulders, and that that desire to give up, and what's the point anyway, and why should we even bother? Or that shame or failure that we can feel. It's purely our own inner critic coming up. And we all have an inner coach. We all have a voice that's real, that's always driving us towards growing and empowerment and being creative about our challenges. So just remembering that our own inner voice is so huge. When I work with particularly with teenagers, I do a certain process called the journey where they bring up traumatic memories and we put it up on a screen virtually, not in real. And I say to them, what would you want to give yourself? That you, we ask them to step down off the screen, that you that went through that abuse or neglect or difficult school experience, like what would you like to give that you? And they can choose whatever resources they'd want to give. And one of them that I offer, because I have some suggestions, one of them is kind self-talk. Being able to talk to ourselves in a kind way. Sometimes we don't realize because it goes on silently how horrible we can be to ourselves, right? How really harsh we can be with ourselves. So just important to know that this empowerment triangle is going on inwardly as well. We have a lot of power to be able inwardly to coach ourselves, to be there for ourselves, to believe in ourselves, to be kind to ourselves. And that can help to start to transfer the dynamic from one of drama to one of empowerment. When the spies came back, they said a very interesting thing that is one of my husband's favorites. So I asked him to tell me because I thought it would tie into this. They said, like we saw us, in our eyes, we looked like grasshoppers because when they went to Canaan, there were giants there, right? So that we looked like grasshoppers, and therefore we were in their eyes, right? And he always says that he heard from Rabbi Fran that when we look at ourselves as grasshoppers, that's what we're going to attract. We're going to attract that. He calls it grasshopper syndrome, right? We're going to attract that. But obviously the same mind that could think of ourselves in a low way can also think of ourselves in an empowered, respectful way. Being respectful of ourselves sounds so obvious. It's not always so obvious. We're very quick to jump in and criticize and, oh, well, they can manage. Why can't you, right? We don't even realize, but like we're saying, the same mind that has the power to disempower us also has the power to empower us. So remembering this tool that we have of this own inner coach is really huge in being able to step out. It's always one step away, right? Step out of the drama triangle and find our way back in to the empowerment triangle. So just in conclusion, what I like to do, because obviously I throw out a lot so that I'm hoping that, obviously you're the experts on your own life, so that you'll be able to pick up whatever it is that speaks to you, that's relevant to you. So just to give us a minute, a quiet minute at the end just now, just to be able to think from everything that we've shared today, what is it that you would like as like, your take home? What is it that impacted you? What is it that you would like, just one piece that you would like to take and internalize and find that way for you to find that rose through your own thorns of your own life, because we all have challenges. So just giving a minute for you to think about that. I don't have a second time I watched, but I think that was about it. I just want to end off with a client who inspired me so much this week. She is, obviously, I'm not going to give any identifying details at all, but she's been through an incredible amount of self-harm and anorexia and depression and anxiety. And she quoted a song. I don't actually know the song, and even if I did, I wouldn't put you through me singing it, but she quoted some words from it that I found really inspiring. She said, after all I've been through, nothing can push me down away from the light I choose. I'm a fighter, a life worth fighting for. Thank you.